Welcome to White Space. You've been here for as long as you remember. You are Omori, a boy in a white void. A pitch black light bulb hangs from the ceiling. Near you is a white door that Omori chooses to just stare at. Few objects share this space with you. A sketchbook with some disturbing personal drawings. A box of tissues for wiping your sorrows away. A black cat, Mellow, who only says, "Waiting for something to happen?" You are. Nothing ever does. Your laptop is also present. Your background is a brick wall. You are presented with two options. You can choose to stare at your screen. Nothing happens. You may also read your journal. It reads, "Today I spent time in white space. Everything was okay. Today I visited my friends. Everything was okay." These statements repeat on and on forever. The days are no longer numbered, and the time reads 000 AM. You log off. The heat from your laptop warms your lap. It feels nice. You may wander this endlessly looping void if you choose. The only thing you will find are mysterious red hands that will try to bring you to your safe space with your comforts. Hands of time, these are described as in the trailer song. If you choose to inspect all of your belongings in white space, you will hear a metallic clang. From somewhere, a shiny knife hits the floor. You automatically equip it. You may now open the lone door in this room. What I just described were the first few minutes of Omori, a psychological horror RPG made by notable artist Omocat. Omori came out on Christmas of the trash fire year that was 2020. While 2020 was a turbulent year full of endless surprises, Omori releasing certainly wasn't one I was expecting. Following its successful Kickstarter back in 2014, updates on the game's progress were very scant, leading to many supporters assuming it was just never going to come out. But it did! And hey, it's pretty damn good too. My original idea for this video was for me to just talk about how well this game succeeded at being an RPG, and I certainly think it does. It has satisfying combat with tons of nuance, colorful and haunting locales to see, a quirky cast that's hard not to love. Shit's great. The fact is, Omori struck a more personal chord with me, and the more I tried to make the script for that video, the more I wanted to make this one instead. So as I'm sure you've noticed, there was a huge global problem in 2020 that YouTube doesn't like you to talk about. Lockdowns, layoffs, and worst of all, the immeasurable loss of human life. It has been a truly horrid time for everyone. But I would like to talk about my 2020. My state went into lockdown in late March. I was temporarily laid off by my job at that time. A few months later in May, I was informed by my bosses that they were not reopening the shop and that I was completely out of a job. They did tell me that they had another job for me. It was a bartender position. Desperate to not be unemployed, I accepted it. Frankly, it was a bad time. My boss constantly mocked me for wearing a mask at work, among other things I don't want to get into here. This job didn't last long. Unsurprisingly, I got incredibly sick, leading to a hospital visit and subsequently to me being bedridden for about 2 months on and off. Symptoms of this sickness persist in me to this day, though to a lesser extent. Hikikomori. Total withdrawal from society and seeking extreme degrees of social isolation and confinement. I personally considered myself a hard worker who was confident in their skills. It's amazing just how much a pandemic can change you. I'm now unemployed, incredibly ill, and like many others in this time, incredibly weary of the outside world. I fell into a dangerous cycle. Every day I would wake up, stay in bed, move across the room to my computer, say to myself I'd look for a job, not do that, take a nap, and repeat the above until the day is over. I filled my free time with consuming media, anything to ignore the situation. The days I lost to this cycle became months before I even knew it. It felt like I was stuck in my own personal void with no real escape. I scraped by with help from my friends and conservative use of my funds. I stopped living and I was just now getting by. For the longest while, I honestly just stopped trying. So back to Omori. From this point on, I need to discuss minor spoilers and themes that Omori covers, including how to access its alternate story route. I will not be spoiling its biggest twist, but later on I do need to talk about the final boss, which I will warn of beforehand. Omori is really a game about a boy named Sunny. Sunny is a shut-in, spending every day inside for the past several years after experiencing a great trauma. He prefers to spend his time asleep, in worlds of his own creation. This is what white space is, and where Sunny, as Omori, reigns superior. White space is his escape from the real world he would rather not be a part of. Remember that door I mentioned earlier? It only leads to another dream world, headspace. This one childish and colorful. Here you meet his friends Aubrey, Kel, and Hero. And with your RPG party in tow, you can go outside and explore this world with your best buds. It's a joyful time, but the trauma Sunny is repressing, which the game calls something, will eventually catch up to him. Major areas in Headspace are not accessible due to the various phobias Sunny has: fear of heights, fear of drowning, fear of spiders. Only after facing his fears is Sunny able to progress further into Headspace. However, the more he explores, the more he becomes unable to avoid that trauma. Eventually, Sunny must confront that something. Everything in this game and Sunny's story is building to this. Omori, the game, is split into sections spent in the dream world and sections in the real world. After the first major boss in the game, Space Ex-Boyfriend, and a very normal walk through a moon farm, you are forced back into white space, this time without the door. The only way to progress is to use that knife we found earlier. Omori stabs himself, and you wake up in your real house as Sunny. It's evident that Sunny is moving soon. There isn't really much to see in the house. There's a room that Sunny refuses to enter, among some other things. Eventually, you hear a knock on the door. You cautiously answer it. On the other side is Kel, but taller. He's been trying to reach out to you for years, but this is the first time you've answered him. He wants to spend some time with you before you have to move away in 3 days. You now get to spend time with Kel, and eventually your other Dreamworld friends, in the little suburb of Faraway Town. These rearward sections are now paired with those in your mental safe house of Headspace. Dealing with your problems in the real world and reconnecting with your friends is what helps you process and eventually accept the trauma that you've been repressing. This eventually opens the route for the best ending of the game. But what if you don't face that trauma? Back to that knock at the door. You hear the knock and you choose to ignore it. You have now entered the Hikikomori route. In this version of your story, you never go outside. The pleasant and cathartic faraway town segments are removed entirely. The real world segments are now just Sunny packing and doing chores. Most of the same story beats are here, but the crucial difference is that Sunny never confronts the truth. He chooses to ignore his trauma forever, even though it's following him everywhere he goes, even in his safest spaces. This route is harrowing. It's impossible to achieve a good ending while on this route. Hell, it doesn't even have a final boss. Ultimately, all of this consumes Sunny. The only thing left behind is Omori. Let's talk about what happens with as little detail as possible on the main route. You can't run away anymore. Sunny has to confront the truth about what happened, the source of all of his pain, what he's running from. Sunny, not Omori, appears in white space. He walks forward and confronts the antagonist of this story. The final boss of Omori is Omori. It couldn't be anyone else. Sunny must face this version of himself that he has created. So here's the thing about this fight. No matter what you do, no matter how you struggle, you cannot win. Your creation is stronger than you. You fail. But you're given a choice. Do you want to continue? As of writing this, I've recently started a new job. I've been vaccinated and I now feel more comfortable with going outside. It took several months of being stuck in this awful cycle where every single day felt the same before I decided to break it. There was one day in February where I woke up and said to myself, this has to change. I decided to cut off all of my very shaggy quarantine hair. A few days pass. I write something to my mom that I've always wanted to tell her. Very vulnerable things that I will not be covering here. A few more days pass. Mom tells me she's been laid off, while also asking me how my job hunt was going. We talk about both of those things. It was this moment for me that I felt myself breaking out of the cycle. From this point, I began submitting tons of job applications everywhere I could. I'm not totally better, life doesn't work like that, but I'm making progress. So why share any of this? Why be so vulnerable in literally my first video, and how does Omori even relate to this? The fact of the matter is, I was going to buy Omori no matter what. I've been a huge Omocat fan for almost a decade, and I remember seeing Omori's trailer day one. I was going to buy it upon release regardless. The fact that it released during the hell year of 2020 and one of the worst mental breaks I've ever had was purely coincidental. Coincidental, but welcome. I didn't know what to expect from the game, but I didn't expect to find myself, or at least a part of myself in it. Omori ultimately is a story about the importance of facing and dealing with your problems, as well as a cautionary tale of what could happen if you don't deal with them. I wanted to tell my story because I know I'm not the only one who has been stuck in a cycle like this, or like the one presented in Omori. I'm making this for people who, like me, are stuck in a rut. I want to challenge the people who relate to this. Realize the problem, rely on your friends, they care about you more than you know. And most importantly, try to improve whatever that may mean for you. Omori is something truly special, and it's something I think is worth experiencing on your own. I tried to spoil as little of the game as possible while still talking about everything I wanted to. I didn't even mention the two characters that Sunny's story revolves around. Please, if you can, experience Omori for yourself. I also want to make it very clear that while I was able to break my own toxic cycle, and Omori is a game about something very similar, Omori did not save me. I think media is very powerful and it can have this effect for people, but in my particular case, it was not my saving grace. It was more like a mirror. While we were not discussing the twists of the game, I want to say that my troubles, and hopefully yours, are not nearly as messed up as the truth Sunny is repressing. Hey, you made it to the end! Thanks a lot. This is something very new to me. I want to shout out my friend and editor for encouraging me to do this. I wouldn't have made this without them helping. I also want to thank Thor High Heels and Super Apex Wolf for being the inspirations for my style. If you are watching this, you've probably heard of at least one of them. As for me, what's next? I have a few ideas for future videos, not all of them related to video games. We contain multitudes, and I like a lot of different topics. I can certainly say that not every video will be this personal though. If you liked even a little bit about what you saw, please stay tuned.